So I never really considered myself to be an artist. When I think of artists, I imagine three groups of people. The first, a misunderstood group of outliers whose heads are always in the clouds, who wear mismatching clothes, are disorganized but authentic, colorful but free. The second are a rigid and fussy group with easels and oil paints. They have wealthy patrons and rigid concepts. They're talented but disconnected, precise but trapped. And then there's the third group, who peddle their artistic wares at craft shows and art bazaars, who labor in their own private factories, mass producing their work for sale, constricting their creative talent to things that can be eaten off of or hung on a wall. It's always been hard for me to think of myself as an artist. I don't fit into any of these categories, into any of these boxes. I make art to survive. I make art because I don't have a choice. No, I have a choice, but sometimes the choices are dire. Like either hurt myself or make art, shut out the world or create, quit or break glass, die or ink a mask. Art is my voice when I don't have the words to say. Art expresses the parts of my story that can only be told in shapes and colors, the pieces of myself that don't seem to fit anywhere else, the feelings that don't have a name, the experiences hovering over the darkest parts of my soul. I don't know, I wonder, is there a category of artists who play with ink and smash glass with a hammer, who use art as a survival strategy, who look at shards of glass and pieces of paper and bottles of intrusively drippy ink and the fragments of life, both good and bad, and put them all together to survive? Is there a category of artists who don't care if what they make is ugly or beautiful, but make things because they don't have a choice? Is there a category of artists who are motivated by their inner will to live, to find their authentic voice no matter how soft or how bold or integrated or chaotic or clear or unresolved it may be? If so, I guess I would fit into this category of artists. My name is Meagan Corrado. I'm a doctor of social work. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm the creator of the Stories Trauma Narrative Intervention. I'm a trauma survivor, and I'm also an artist. I created the Stories Trauma Narrative Intervention to support inner city youth in creating, voicing, and honoring their stories, looking at their past positive and negative experiences, organizing them, creatively honoring them, and looking toward their future vision. The Glass and Ink Trauma and Strength Mixed Media Art Show, which is on the second floor of this building, is a glimpse into my own personal trauma narrative. I have written my own trauma narrative in my own stories process, but the pieces of artwork in the show depict parts of my narrative that I couldn't articulate in words. Stories don't always have words. Sometimes we can't open our lips to tell them. Sometimes the words aren't there, or it's too painful to say them. Sometimes when we open our mouths to read a page, only a word or a phrase comes out. When we don't have the words, art speaks for us. Art fills the silent void when speech escapes us. The artwork in this show tells parts of my story. It's divided into 10 different themes. And these themes include both positive emotions and experiences and negative emotions and experiences. Here are the themes: creativity, empowerment, fragility, fragmentation, identity, integration, reflection, strength, trauma, and vision. I think it's important to note that all of our narratives have contrasting themes: trauma and strength, fragility and empowerment, creativity and desolation, hopelessness and vision, connection and fragmentation. This show honors the dichotomy inherent in all of our experiences. It acknowledges the importance of this dichotomy in our healing process. So now I'm going to introduce you to my art making process. Afterwards, I'll talk to you about some of the materials and the technical aspects of my process. And you can also ask me questions about the materials, and you can also see the materials up close. So to begin, I believe that in the art making process, we have to embrace creative play. So I believe that art enables us to be free in ways that the real world doesn't allow us to. It allows us to push the limits, push the boundaries, explore new possibilities, new materials, new surfaces. When I'm making art, I'm always curious. A lot of times my art projects begin with a question, and the question usually begins with, what would happen if I combined ink and glass? What would happen if I collaged words or pictures on a mannequin? What would happen if I used this adhesive on this surface? What would happen if I plaster casted my own face? I always give myself the freedom to play with the art that I create. Your emotions and experiences give your art power. Have you ever seen a piece of art that was well executed, technically genius, but didn't make you feel anything? I always find this disheartening. There are a plethora of technically trained artists who can make things, and they can make things well. But there's a difference between making things well and making people feel something. But in order to make people feel something, you as an artist have to feel something. You have to connect with what it is that you're creating. I believe that every true artist uses their emotions and experiences to invigorate their art with life and meaning. Art is a container for emotion. It's a conduit for expression. It helps us hold things that are too heavy to carry and share passions that are too invigorating, too empowering to keep to ourselves. Voice your authentic story. Stories help us integrate and process our experiences. They help us make sense of what has happened to us and create a future vision. Stories are complicated. They're not always linear. Some stories are messy, some are chaotic and unresolved. They don't always have a happy ending. We have to tell them anyway. Meaning making is an important part of expression, of integration, of healing. We have to use our art to voice our authentic stories, not just the stories that people want to hear, not just the parts of our stories that are pretty and happy and clear, but the parts that are foggy and fragmented too. Art helps us tell the whole story. And finally, there's no such thing as perfection. How often are we expected to accomplish a task perfectly in our professional lives, our family lives, our social lives? How often are we shamed or punished for failing to achieve perfection? To me, art is a respite from life's perfectionistic demands. I'm free to make mistakes. I'm free to break things with a hammer and then put them back together again. In my artistic process, I view mistakes as learning opportunities. Sometimes we have to mess up in order to open ourselves to greater creative possibilities. Sometimes my best artistic moments happen when I ruin something that I wanted to preserve or break something that I wanted to keep whole.